Hello everyone, welcome to episode 3 of our Harley Quinn sketch. I am your Manchurian candidate, Peter Stockbridge, and we're cracking on with the face now. We're dealing with the skin tone at the moment. I always like to start with a pale skin tone. Essentially, it's a mid-range, really. That essentially gives me the general look, and then I can go in with a deeper skin tone and commit to some of the subsurface details. One of the things that you need to remember when you're doing skin is that there is ultimately a lot of layers to skin, and they have to be represented in an effective way, and depending on how far the skin is away from the camera, you have to kind of do some sort of translating of the replication style. So when, obviously, if it's up close, you'd go into a lot more detail, but because this isn't so close up, we have to kind of abbreviate some of the details. And so it all starts with a basic wash, like everything else. You'll notice that I'm not going over the eyes, and that's obviously because the eyes are white, but it's also because of the heavy makeup. It's not really worth me going in any further just yet until I know how her mascara is going to behave. But I am getting 95% of her face covered now. This is always a nerve-wracking part of the sketch, and even someone as seasoned as I am, I'm always fearful of it not, turning out right, and there's always that part of me that is very skeptical, because, I get halfway through and I'm like, fuck me, this looks really bad. But somehow it doesn't end up that way. I think it's because I just brute forced the issue, I think I'm starting to think that I'm sitting here thinking, well, no, it's going to work. There's no choice. I mean, that there's no alternative way, really. I mean, that's how I see it. Essentially it's just like, well, I'm not going to fail. It's as simple as that. So there's some lettering work that I need to do. There's some on her bat, and there's some on her chest, her t-shirt. Yes, this is the scary bit, because my black pencil refuses to go sharp these days, and I know I said in a previous episode that I wouldn't resort to using a scalpel. I may actually have to start doing that, which means learning how to do that, because I have no clue on how to effectively sharpen a pencil using a scalpel. So I will be looking that up at some point. Now, I know straight away I've got it wrong. And that's the first kind of blow, really, where you're sort of like, oh, fuck, it's wrong. But it's nothing that a quick erasing can't fix. And as I've said before, it is just a case of believing in yourself. And the reason why you've made a mistake is because you haven't interpreted something properly. So trust in your instincts, wipe it off and start again. And don't accept failure as an option. But I mean, don't sort of stress out about it. I don't mean that. I mean, just let it take you over, just encompass and believe in that. And you'll find that you might actually surprise yourself. And as much as I would like to speed this up somehow, I know that I can't. And for me, stuff does take time, and I think it's a subconscious thing where I just don't want to mess anything up, and I'm always conscious of it. So I'm not going to get all political and deep in this episode. I feel like I've gone a bit overboard as it is. So we're going to talk about nice and sweet things. So Margot Robbie plays this character really well, and I haven't seen, because there was a sequel to Suicide Squad, wasn't there? Sort of like a spin-off type thing. I haven't seen that. I've seen Suicide Squad and the direct sequel, The Suicide Squad or something. And she plays the character really well, She's very much unhinged and perfect casting here. I haven't really seen her in much else. I think the only other thing that I've seen her in is Once Upon a Time in America. But yes, she did a very good job in the sequel. She had a very good scene, and she played it really well. It's just so brilliant, and she deserves a lot of praise. So, yes, it is an honor to draw her, really. She looks a lot like my ex, and if you saw a picture of my ex, you wouldn't be able to deny it. So, yeah. Not that means anything, of course. I'm not pining for my ex or anything. I'm just acknowledging the fact that she isn't a dead ringer. So now, yeah, we've grabbed our deeper shade, skin shade now, and we're just sort of going round the face, getting the basic forms. So much like how you would add shade to a spherical object, I am doing the same, knowing that there's always some shadow in between the eye and the eyebrows. There's always going to be some shade directly under the lips and the nose. And so, yeah, this is where everything starts to come together now. We're committing with the eyeliner and this is a scary stage as well. I'm used to having a sharper pencil, you see. And for the life of me, I can't get this thing sharp, and it does make a big difference, of course. So I have to think of something rapidly regarding this situation, because you know, it can't really go on. I can get by, but certainly for the things that I have planned next year, I am going to be wanting to go subatomic with my detail, and for that I need a super sharp, almost pin sharp pencil, black pencil, to do that. I'm really looking forward to the project, the big project next year. I hope that it all turns out okay. I want it to turn out okay, obviously. So I shan't really say anything more than that, because I don't really want to give the game away yet. It's make or break with the eyes, you know. If you don't get the eyes right, then, you know, that's the picture, really. It's the heart of the picture, and it will always be the heart of the picture, the eyes. You know, I mean, like, you can mess up some of the hair or the body or whatever, but if the face isn't believable enough, then you better sort of keep going until it is. You know, if you really want something to work, then you best keep going. Recognize and solve any issues that might arise. I can see that there's something slightly off with the upper eyelids, so before the episode is through, that'll be rectified. So at the moment I'm just trying to sort of build in some of the form of the skin, the shape, the shading. And just taking care of the bulk of the eyes, really. Just get that to a satisfactory point for now, then I can just sort of move on. It's quite tricky when you're working with small faces. You have to be very careful of your strokes. Okay, getting there. Now I'm just plotting in the side of her face. A lot of people tend to sort of go over borderlines with deeper colours. Me personally, I always like to line everything with a thin black pencil. I've always done that from the start, really. It sort of brings it out really nicely. It gives it a sort of cartoon effect, sure, but there's also sort of like an element of you know, realism to it as well. My work is very heavily inspired by Alex Ross, by the way. Alex Ross, Thierry Duval, and there's some other artists that I genuinely can't remember their names, so I do apologise, but there are some other influences. Sid Mead, of course, almost chap who did the Aliens. I've genuinely forgotten his name. It escapes me. I'm going to kick myself when I watch this back later. I've forgotten his name. The guy who designed the Alien, right? Him. Geiger. H.R. Geiger, yes. I've thought of it. Yeah, H.R. Geiger. Sid Mead. And the like. Okay, so we're, you know, not bad. Not bad. We're getting closer now. The eyes are starting to match up a bit more. And I think at this point it is usually a good idea to just sort of leave it there, you know, carry on with something else and just leave it there, because the chances are when you go away and come back, you'll see the solution of where you went wrong. So if you're ever in doubt and you don't want to mess anything up, the solution of walking away for, you know, a day or two, or, you know, a decent period of time, then always take that option. It's always a good idea to sometimes walk away from your work and then come back. Always. Okay, it's mouth time. So I've watched the entire second series of The Witcher. Came out like 2-3 days ago or something. It was alright. It was alright. It wasn't bad. Always worried that it's going to go overly gruesome and dark like Game of Thrones, and I'm happy to report that it hasn't really done that. So I am very pleased, because there's no need for it, and I'm very happy that the producers, whoever they are, it looks like they've recognised it, and yes, I might be eating those words in the 3rd or 4th seasons or whatever to come, but I know roughly the story because I've played the game. I think I clocked the game twice, the 3rd game that is. I've played the 2nd one, but no, the 3rd one, Wild Hunt, I've clocked that twice. It is a very enjoyable game. One of the best, actually, of all time, really. It goes up there in the Hall of Fame, for me at least. So yeah, I know roughly the story, and it's not followed it, you know, like to the letter, but it's not doing badly. There's a lot of fluff, like you'd expect, but it's not bad. Anyway, so just working out the angle of that bottom lip. I swear I haven't really got that spot on. But again, it's one of those things that you can sort of leave and approach later if you're a bit unsure. So don't fret, because you know you might have come to a point where you're like, wow, I'm really happy with that. You know, and you want to carry on perhaps, but you're really tired, consider putting everything down and having a rest. If you want to keep going, obviously keep going. I won't stop you. I've done the same. I've spent I think my record of sitting down and not getting up one sitting is 8 hours. And didn't even feel it. Didn't even feel it. So the deeper skin tones now. If you look at the source photo, you'll notice that there's probably not as much depth, skin depth, as what I'm doing here. And I've since learnt that it's probably not a good idea to replicate one for one the skin tones that you see in a source photo. If it's plain, if there's no real detail in the skin tone, and sometimes that can be the case, sometimes it can be so washed out or photoshopped that there's no detail left to see, you have to kind of fill that in for yourself. And that process gets easier the more you naturally tend to sort of over shade skin, and it's usually not a bad thing, let me put it that way. And you know, I've always said that art is an expression. It's a release of emotions almost. But it does depend on what you're working on. I know that I have to sort of finish this one as quick as possible, because I have some other work to do after this before the big Christmas day. And I'm not panicked at all. I'm really not. I know everything's going to be fine. And I think it's just, me wanting to make everything as good as I can possibly make it. And I've always trusted in the gods when it comes to doing art. Sometimes I let my hand guide me. I know that might be a strange thing to admit, but there is this sense of sometimes I just do things without thinking. And you can call that what you will. I call it the guiding hand. We are 5 minutes away from the end of the episode, and you can see that we've come leaps and bounds compared to the end of the previous episode. We've tackled the big aspect of the sketch, and that's the face. I go through and start some of the hair now, just sort of doing the ear. The hair is thankfully fairly easy. There are obviously the blue and pink elements, but the rest of it is just sort of grayscale. So I'm very happy about that. Okay. I know that yes, there's still quite a lot of work to do with some of the jewellery that she's got on. I know her choker needs a bit more work, but I'm not concerned about that right now. I'm concerned about just getting some of this hair filled in. Just get some of that going before the end of the episode. Usually there's some measure of tweaking in between episodes. Not always. But I think this time, through this series, I haven't done much at all, so... So bearing in mind that the first stage is getting everything plotted in properly, you know. If you have to make certain guides for things, then go ahead. Because you know that, you know, it'll all be drowned out later, trust me. By the time you've added layer upon layer of detail and sub-detail, you know, all the original guidelines will be lost. I've never worked with the grid system. Someone asked me that the other day, and I will admit that I've never worked with the grid system. I don't believe in it. I feel like it's a kind of a waste of time. I feel like you can get the basic guide for anything in a much easier way than doing a grid system. I think you're just making life a bit hard for yourself, to be quite honest with you. I've always sort of used, you know, like a tracing system, or, you know, done it by eye, really. I did go through a period where I needed to do it by eye just to prove to myself that I could do it. And there's a number of black and white sketches up in my gallery which have been put together that way, and so I know that if push comes to shove, I could actually do that. Anyway, so if you like what you see, you know what to do, and look out for episode 4. That'll be coming soon. I have an operation tomorrow, so wish me luck, and I will be back as soon as my body allows it. Take care, everyone. See you later.